You arrive at the gates with nothing but a target on your back, scrubbing blood off the concrete just to survive the night. To climb this hierarchy, you'll trade your soul for ink and your safety for power. Could you survive the transition from fresh fish to the man orchestrating a full-scale prison riot? We're going inside the wire to see if you have the grit to earn your stripes in a high-security nightmare. The hierarchy is written in blood, and it's time to claim your spot. Feel the cold steel of a shiv against your ribs as you navigate the deadliest racial politics on the yard. One wrong word ends your journey, but the right play puts you in charge of the entire contraband pipeline. Experience the brutal evolution of a prisoner rising through the gang ranks. From a disposable soldier to a cold-blooded shot caller, this is your life now. Level 1, the arrival. You are 21 years old, and the heavy steel chain cuts into your ankles, while waist chains and handcuffs keep you rigidly bound as you shuffle forward. The diesel engine of the armored transport bus groans to a halt, and the suffocating afternoon heat instantly presses against the reinforced windows. But the cold reality of the concrete fortress looming ahead freezes the blood in your veins. This is a maximum security state penitentiary. You are not a person anymore. The intake officer standing behind the reinforced glass doesn't even look at your face, having processed hundreds of men exactly like you. He points a heavy finger to a scuffed yellow line painted on linoleum floor. You are told to strip, bend over, and cough. The absolute humiliation is the entire point of the process. They confiscate your civilian clothes, the very last physical connection you possess to the outside world, and hand you a stiff, brightly colored orange jumpsuit. You are handed a plastic ID card, and in a single, devastating instant, your given name is completely erased, permanently replaced by a 7-digit Department of Corrections number. You are marched down an impossibly long corridor where the sensory overload hits you like a physical punch to the chest. Men yelling, steel doors slamming, and the constant, deafening echo of confined humanity. Your cell is unimaginably small, measuring exactly 6 by 9 feet, featuring a bolted bed and a seatless toilet. You step out onto the reception yard for the very first time, and you instantly feel dozens of pairs of cold eyes lock onto you. This is the ultimate predator environment. Every single glance thrown your way is a microscopic test of your resolve. If you look down at your cheap boots, you are immediately marked as prey. If you stare too long at the wrong group of men, you are perceived as a violent threat. You have absolutely no alliances, no protection, and no leverage. You are fresh fish, the most vulnerable commodity in the entire ecosystem. Level 2, the degradation. To survive your first month, you have to prove you aren't soft, but you cannot afford to be arrogant. The yard is strictly segregated, divided by invisible territorial lines based entirely on gang membership and race. You learn the terrifying reality that simply crossing an invisible line, or stepping onto the wrong patch of dirt, can trigger a full-scale, bloody riot in a matter of seconds. An older inmate, a hardened veteran, who shares your demographic background, approaches you near the block entrance. He does not shake your hand. He points to a frayed mop and a bucket filled with filthy gray water. He tells you to scrub the communal showers. It is a deeply degrading, disgusting task. The showers are covered in grime, mold, and the lingering rusted traces of last night's violence. Your ego screams at you to drop the mop and fight him, to prove you aren't a servant, but your survival instinct violently overrides your pride. You understand the test. You scrub the concrete floor in absolute silence. You do not complain, and you do not ask for a break. You show them that you are willing to pay your dues, that you understand your place at the very bottom of the hierarchy, and that you possess the absolute discipline required to exist inside this machine. Weeks bleed into months. You are no longer fresh fish, but you are still just a disposable worker. The tension on the block has been building for a week. The air is thick, and the usual chaotic noise has dropped to an eerie, unnatural quiet that always precedes violence. A gang elder walks past your cell. Without breaking his stride or looking in your direction, he bumps your shoulder and slips something heavy, wrapped tightly in a torn piece of undersheet, directly into your pocket. You reach inside and feel the cold steel of a makeshift shiv. Your heart hammers violently against your chest. Holding a weapon for a gang elder is a massive, high-stakes gamble. If the guards find this weapon on you during a random search, you will be thrown into solitary confinement. 10 minutes later, the facility alarm blares. A violent brawl erupts on the lower tier. The tactical response team floods the block in heavy riot gear. They lock down the entire block and begin a massive systematic shakedown of every single cell. You sit on your bunk, your hands sweating profusely, the shank securely hidden deep inside the hollowed-out spine of a thick library book you carefully glued back together. The guards toss your cell, throwing your mattress onto the floor, but they do not find it. Level 3. Blood and first ink. The lockdown lifts 3 days later. The elder walks by your cell and simply nods at you. You did not panic. You passed the ultimate test of loyalty. That very night, during the brief, chaotic window of a guard shift change, you are pulled into a dark cell at the far end of the tier. Two heavily muscled men stand watch at the steel door. Inside, a man is holding a crude, homemade tattoo machine built from a stripped cassette player motor, a plastic pen casing, and a sharpened guitar string. The ink is a toxic mixture of burnt styrofoam soot and baby oil. You sit on the edge of the metal toilet. The needle bites deep into your rib cage. It burns with a hot, searing pain that drags across your skin for 2 excruciating hours. You do not flinch. In some organizations, initiates stand in an alley where 13 members form a circle, subjecting you to 13 rounds of simultaneous attacks to test your endurance. Here, the blood is drawn slowly through the needle. When the buzzing finally stops, you look in the small, scratched metal mirror bolted above the sink. The crude black ink marks your official induction. The philosophy is permanent. Blood in, blood out. You are no longer an independent, vulnerable inmate. You are officially patched in. You have their permanent, violent protection, but you have also just signed away your free will, making a lifetime commitment to an organization that exists into perpetuity. Level 4. The Rise of a Soldier. You are 24 years old. You are a soldier now, and your daily life is consumed by the highly orchestrated underground prison economy. Prison is where the gang truly operates. On the streets, you might have power, but inside, you function as a king. You run the underground economy, taxing everything from drugs brought by corrupt guards to smuggled cell phones. You are the logistics man. You manage the daily grind of moving smuggled cell phones and narcotics through the most secure checkpoints imaginable. You navigate the complex relationships with compromised guards who look the other way, ensuring that the gang's reputation for delivering quality products is upheld in an environment where trust is virtually non-existent. Sometimes you are forced to swallow tightly wrapped balloons of narcotics to move them across the visiting room, praying your stomach acid doesn't dissolve the latex and kill you before you make it back to your cell block to retrieve them. But the money and the influence cannot protect you from the physical reality of the yard. Violence is the only currency that carries absolute value here. You are sitting at a metal table in the chow hall, eating a tray of tasteless, starchy food. You have learned to never sit with your back to a door. Suddenly, the atmospheric pressure in the room violently shifts. You do not see the attacker. You simply sense the rapid movement in your peripheral vision. A rival gang member lunges at you from the blind spot near the serving line. Your tactical awareness, honed by years of living in a state of hypervigilance, saves your life. You instinctively drop your shoulder and twist your torso. The makeshift blade tears through the fabric of your jumpsuit and slices a deep, burning gash across your bicep instead of burying itself fatally in your neck. You pivot, driving your heavy boot directly into his knee, dropping him to the concrete floor. The guards swarm the chow hall, sirens wailing, and pepper spray filling the air. You sit on the floor, bleeding heavily, your face completely stone cold. When the internal investigators pull you into a sterile interrogation room and demand to know who ordered the hit, you stare blankly at the cinder block wall. You tell them you slipped and fell on a piece of sharp metal in the kitchen. You completely refuse the authority of the institution. Level 5, taking the fall. 6 months later, a massive, unannounced shakedown hits your specific cell block. The guards are tearing everything apart, using drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors, and they are zeroing in on the cell of your immediate superior, the shot caller for your tier. He has a massive stash of contraband hidden inside a hollowed-out television casing. If he gets caught, he loses his position, and the gang loses its primary communication link to the streets outside. You do not even think about the consequences. You step out of your cell, look directly at the captain of the guards, and loudly declare that the contraband belongs entirely to you. You take the fall. You are immediately dragged out of the block, thrown into heavy handcuffs, and sent to the disciplinary hole for 90 days. You spend those 90 days in 23-hour lockdown in a cage barely larger than your 6 by 9 foot cell. You sit in a freezing room, staring at a blank wall, slowly losing your grip on time as the days collapse into a terrifying, gray blur. The sensory deprivation plays tricks on your mind. You hear voices that aren't there. But when those 90 days are finally over and you walk back onto the main yard, blinking against the harsh sunlight, the entire hierarchy shifts. The elders look at you differently. The shot callers pull you into their highly exclusive circles. You proved that you can keep your mouth shut under absolute pressure. You sacrificed your own comfort for the survival of the leadership. You have earned unshakable permanent respect. Level 6. The shot caller status. You are 32 years old. You have transcended the brutal physical violence of the lower tiers. As a shot caller, you control the cell block, dictating who receives protection and who gets stabbed. You no longer throw punches or hold the blades. Your words now carry infinitely more weight than your fists. You sit at a specific, designated table in the center of the yard, surrounded by heavily muscled soldiers who watch every single angle for you. You dictate the politics of the entire facility, vetting supplier gangs, regulating illicit transactions, and controlling the violence in the marketplace. The prison is a complex, high-stakes chessboard, and you are the one moving the pieces. A massive shipment of synthetic narcotics needs to be moved from the kitchen storage area to the north cell block, but the administration has heavily doubled the guard presence in the central corridor. You need a massive distraction. You call over two young, eager soldiers who are desperate to earn their ink and prove their loyalty. You give them a quiet, specific order. 10 minutes later, on the far south side of the recreation yard, a brutal, highly coordinated brawl breaks out. It looks completely spontaneous, a violent clash over a basketball game. The alarms scream. The response teams, the pepper ball launchers, and the tactical guards all flood south to contain the chaos. The central corridor is left completely empty for exactly 4 minutes. Your package moves seamlessly to the north block. The young soldiers are sent to the hole, bruised and bloodied, but they go willingly, knowing they perfectly executed your strategic vision. Level 7. Orchestration and Paranoia. You hold a monopoly on violence, and you use it to extract resources and impose gang taxes on the entire prison population. But holding absolute authority breeds a suffocating, terminal paranoia. You must manage a fragile, highly volatile peace between fractured and aggressive subsets of your own organization. You oversee internal court-like meetings that receive complaints and determine violent punishments when a gang member commits an offense against your rules. The most dangerous enemy is never the rival gang across the yard. It is the ambitious, hungry soldier standing directly behind you. You watch absolutely everyone. You scrutinize the guy who makes your instant coffee in the morning, wondering if someone offered him a higher rank to slip crushed glass or fentanyl into your cup. You trust absolutely no one. You review every piece of smuggled paperwork, every rumor passed on the tier, every microscopic shift in the guards' patrol routines. You sleep with one eye open, listening to the breathing of your cellmate, constantly calculating the exact moment someone will decide that your time at the top is over. You have built a massive, lucrative empire behind bars, leveraging your power inside to govern illicit markets and direct drug dealers on the streets. But you are living under a constant, crushing psychological siege. You are a king trapped inside a concrete castle. Level 8. The Inner Circle Power Play. You are 41 years old. The inevitable finally happens. A massive, bloody power play erupts on the yard. A rival gang violently breaches a long-standing peace treaty, resulting in a terrifying 20-minute riot that leaves multiple inmates dead and dozens hospitalized. The prison goes into a state of total, indefinite lockdown. The administration does not know exactly who threw the fatal punches, but they know exactly who orchestrated the chaos. They know exactly who gave the orders. They know your name. At 3 a.m., your cell door slides open with a mechanical clatter. A heavily armored tactical extraction team, clad in black riot gear and carrying ballistic shields, swarms into your tiny cell. You do not fight back. You let them press your face against the cold concrete and put the heavy iron chains on your wrists and ankles. They drag you out of the general population and transfer you to the Seishu, the security housing unit. This is the prison within the prison, the absolute end of the line. Level 9, the high stakes of the SHU. You are eventually transferred to a Supermax facility, enduring 23 hours a day in total isolation. You are stripped naked, thoroughly searched again, and thrown into a soundproof concrete box. The door is solid steel. There are no bars to look through, just a tiny clouded slit of reinforced glass that shows nothing but a patch of gray sky. You have exactly 1 hour of recreation alone in a metal cage that feels like a dog kennel. The artificial lights never fully turn off. The silence is so profound and absolute that it actually rings in your ears, a stark contrast to the endless noise of the main blocks. This extreme isolation is mathematically designed to break the human mind to shatter your sanity until you beg to cooperate with the authorities just to have someone to talk to. But even in the deepest depths of the shoe, the gang's incredible reach finds you. A kite, a tiny, tightly rolled piece of paper, is fished through the plumbing pipes from a cell 3 doors down. You unroll it with trembling fingers. It is a highly classified intelligence report smuggled in from the streets. Your closest friend, a man you grew up with, a man who stood back to back with you in a dozen street fights before you were ever arrested, has been picked up by federal agents. The paperwork confirms the absolute worst. He is talking. He is giving up the entire financial structure of the organization to save himself from a life sentence. Level 10, the ultimate decision. You sit on the edge of your concrete slab. The weight of the decision crushes the air out of your lungs. If you do nothing, the organization collapses, the supply chains fail, and your own people will inevitably label you weak, ensuring you are assassinated the moment you ever step foot out of the SU. If you give the order, you are authorizing the brutal murder of the only brother you have left in the world. You stare at the blank cinder block wall for 6 agonizing hours. You realize the devastating ultimate truth of the life you chose. The brotherhood was always a carefully constructed illusion. The loyalty was always highly conditional, dependent entirely on utility and survival. You take a tiny piece of graphite lead hidden in the seam of your mattress, and you write a single word on the back of the kite, green light. You flush it back through the pipes. You have just signed your brother's death warrant to protect a relentless machine that does not even care if you live or die. Level 11, the crushing weight of the crown. You are 50 years old. You are still sitting in the shoe. The days continue to blur into weeks, and the weeks collapse into a terrifying gray eternity. Your body is a catalog of chronic pain and failure. Your back aches permanently from the concrete bed, and your teeth are beginning to rot. You look in the scratched metal mirror above the sink and realize, with a hollow, sinking feeling, that you are an old man. You rule an absolute kingdom of concrete and razor wire, but you are nothing more than the king of a graveyard. You possess immense lethal power, wielding tremendous influence over illicit markets and street gangs from behind bars. Yet, you cannot even walk to a refrigerator to get a cold glass of water. You cannot feel the warmth of the sun on your face without looking through a heavy chain link fence. You traded your entire life, your youth, your freedom, and your very soul for a crown that is actively, methodically crushing you to death. You finally understand that there is no retirement plan in this hierarchy. The only way you ever leave this organization is through the front gate in a pine box or bleeding out on the floor of a shower block when the next ambitious kid decides it is his turn to wear the crown. You stand on your metal toilet and look out the tiny clouded slit of a window. Far in the distance, past the razor wire and the towering guard posts, you see it. A heavy armored transport bus is pulling up to the intake facility. The heavy steel doors hiss open. A line of young, terrified men steps off the bus, their wrists chained tightly to their waists, their civilian clothes already replaced by bright orange jumpsuits. They are looking around, taking their very first steps onto the scorching concrete, completely unaware of the invisible, violent map they are about to walk into. You watch a new 14-year-old kid step up, hungry for respect, and you realize the cycle continues indefinitely. You arrived at the gates with nothing but a target on your back, scrubbing blood off the concrete just to survive the night. That was you. Now it is them. You step down from the window and sit back on your rigid cot in the deafening silence. The machine never stops. The cycle never ever ends.